What is your thing? Because this is a very, very crowded field. I mean, half this country is like too poor to be able to even worry about their health and what they eat. And the other half are like fucking paranoids. Maybe that's because I live in LA.
No, I
We're
think,
just like doing
yeah.
fucking cold plunges, and they're tanning
Peptides,
they're tanning
talk
their
about peptides.
asshole. Remember that one?
Oh
Tucker
my
Carlson,
goodness.
wasn't he tanning his asshole?
Was he?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
There was taint tanning, like he was saying. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Tucker Carlson, who was like, "Yes, you gotta get sunlight on your taint." You didn't remember? You didn't see
I
that?
remember that fad. I didn't realize Tucker was associated with that.
I believe
think of him now as the nicotine guy. He's like really bullish on nicotine, which we can also talk about.
And hating Jews. It's tanning your taint or hating Jews. This guy is, I'm telling you, a little all over the map.
He's definitely taken a turn in.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
He's taken a turn for sure.
So really, why you?
Yeah, so, well,
Why you?
Well, thanks for the kind words. I'll say, some of it was a matter of circumstance. We launched the podcast during the pandemic, and there was a lot of discussion about vaccines, right? And that's obviously where the major debate was, besides the lockdown issue.
Yep.
And I decided at the time, in part because Stanford had a very strict rule that we weren't supposed to talk about vaccines publicly, because early in the pandemic, if you recall, there were like documents, like Word documents circulating on the internet, people claiming to be affiliated with certain universities and having protocols for dealing with COVID. And, universities, including Stanford, said, listen, we need virologists and public health experts to talk about this or no one else. So on the podcast, I chose to talk about all the things that were universal: how to manage your sleep, how to keep your anxiety down during the lockdowns as best you could, how to maintain some level of physical fitness if you couldn't, leave your house. And then I just started teaching. And I think in large part it was because I wasn't selling a book. I didn't have a podcast. I was just giving away information. I will say also, if you look at a lot, not all, but a lot of the top podcasters, including yourself, including Rogan, Lex Friedman, and there are others, Jocko Willink, for instance, most of them did something else very well first. They were credentialed someplace else, right? Lex is, most people don't realize this, Lex is a PhD, right? He's very versed in computer science and artificial intelligence and these kinds of things. Joe obviously had a prior career. You had a prior career, very successful, in addition to the other things you're doing. I was running a lab at Stanford up until a few years ago. Now I still teach at Stanford, but I shut my lab down because of the podcast. So what you find is that often the most successful podcasts are from people that, sure, entered the field at a certain time, and there were fewer people in the podcast game then, but who also were very fluent in a particular subject and were ready to bring that to the world. So it wasn't like, I want to be a podcaster. It was, I love science, I love learning and teaching. I have an interest in health. I have a long-standing interest in health and fitness in addition to my neuroscience background. So I'm going to talk about all of that. And I think the connections that one has, like your colleagues, like the people that I bring on my podcast are, I'm honored to say, and so privileged to have the opportunity. These are the top neurosurgeon, chair of neurosurgery at UCSF, Eddie Chang, Robert Malenka, the expert in dopamine, Anna Lemke, the expert in addiction medicine, Sean Mackey, the expert in pain medicine, and on and on. And, we include other people, creatives, David Cho, Rick Rubin, et cetera. But to be able to put those people in front of the world was not really happening before. The only person who had really done it before was Charlie Rose, and he had taken a pretty swift exit in the previous years. I never met him, but that's where you saw the neuroscience series.
He was great at neuroscience, bad at coming out of the bedroom with a bathrobe on.
I don't know what the circumstances were.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Coming out of the bedroom with a bathrobe on.
Well, so I think that was it. And then I think, I like to think it's also because, I do the things I talk about, right? I get morning sunlight. I've long been interested in resistance training, and I believe, of course, in modern medicine, but I also believe that lifestyle factors and the things we can control fundamentally shape how healthy or unhealthy we are and how many medications we need or don't need.
Look, about 2003, I switched from Western medicine, not that I abandoned it, because of course Western medicine is wonderful in many ways.
Sure.
But from, but to a much more holistic approach, meaning preventative. And I feel like I got with a doctor I respect very much, who I think knows a great deal. We don't agree on everything. And of course, you also need an MD. But I feel like until that point in my life, I did not really understand how the body worked. I read different books. You know, I don't want to like go through the whole holistic Bible, but you know, they more are of the notion that there is really only one disease, which is cellular destruction. And it has two main causes. One is deficiency of nutrients, and the other is toxicity getting into the cell. And we label things a million ways. There's a million names for many diseases, but it all comes down to not just all that, because I think genetics is really important.
Yeah, some people who have Huntington's, for instance, you know, they could be doing everything right and still be
Genetics.
eventually get seriously ill. Although doing as many things as possible right in terms of lifestyle will greatly extend their lifespan and health span. There's no question.
But do you subscribe, would you say that is your overarching theory also, that it's all about the cells, winning the battle on the molecular level, and our cells? I mean, there's so much in society that is, you know, fatigue, like chronic fatigue, these kind of things, and irritable bowel syndrome, and even allergies, maybe even asthma. Just this stuff that like says it's because we're not treating our cells right. They're getting too much toxicity, and they are deprived of nutrients because what they're being given is processed food, you know, sugar, corn, fungus. Love to get into fungus with you. I'm a big fungus person.
We can talk about psilocybin.
Which no, not that kind of, but that's fungus too. I used to do it. But no, just how harmful fungus is, and how much we always go to germ theory. It's always the bacteria. And sometimes it's the fungus. I mean, fungus is everywhere.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so I absolutely subscribe to the idea that when cells get sick, organs get sick. When organs get sick, you get systemic breakdown eventually. I think that when you talk about toxicity, I think it's very clear that you can have, for instance, toxicity from too many calories, but this is
affluent malnutrition.
That's right.
They call it.
Too many calories, but not enough micronutrients, perhaps, right? Or just too many calories. Energy load toxicity.
And when you don't get the right nutrients, even though you're eating more food, your body is still asking for those nutrients. Which is why you get fat, because you're eating more food, but you're not getting what the body needs, so it wants more.